Hi, everyone. My name is Susanna Savage. I'm the NC Pre-K Teacher Quality Specialist at Durham's Partnership for Children. In this video, I'll give you a brief overview, introduction to using the checkpoints and completing the IRR Certification in Teaching Strategies goal. First, let's go over a little bit of vocabulary. In the creative curriculum, there are 36 objectives organized into 9 domains of development and learning. The 9 domains are social, emotional, physical, language, cognitive, literacy, mathematics, social studies, science and technology, and the arts. The 36 objectives are sometimes broken down further into dimensions that are more specific aspects of the objective. For example, in the domain of language, one of the objectives is listens to and understands increasingly complex language. That objective is then divided into 2 dimensions. A, comprehends language, and B, follows directions. Therefore, there would be 2 different checkpoints for this objective. Indicators and progressions. Progressions of development and learning are the paths children typically follow when acquiring new skills and knowledge. Indicators are specific points or levels along that progression for each objective or dimension. The indicators are descriptions of the knowledge, skills, or abilities that children demonstrate. There are also colored bands that indicate the age that children typically develop the skills along the progression. Here's an example of what that looks like. Here, the objective listens to and understands increasingly complex language, and the dimension follows directions. This shows how children generally acquire this skill over time, building upon what they've already learned. The even numbers show the indicators. The odd numbers indicate that a child may be in between 2 of the indicators in the progression. The colored bands at the bottom correspond to different ages. You will be paying most attention to the blue colored band, as that represents 4-year-olds. When you add documentation, you will assign objectives and then review the associated progressions with that objective, with those objectives. Remember that a high-quality piece of documentation can often serve as evidence for multiple objectives, and so each objective will need to be leveled with a checkpoint separately. First, read the indicators within each progression, and then choose the appropriate level for each child. Ask yourself when you read the indicator, does this child do this consistently, independently, and do they do all aspects of the indicator? When you do this with your documentation, these are called preliminary checkpoints. At the end of each quarter, fall, winter, and spring, you will use this information to choose final checkpoints for the end of that quarter. On the progressions, there may be times where you will choose not yet. That's when the skill that you are leveling is one that a child will get to at a later stage of development. Very, very rarely should you use the checkpoint not observed. This is in the rare cases where a child has had excessive absences and therefore there is no documentation for a particular objective. Now, the Inter-Rater Reliability Certification is verification of the teacher's ability to assign the accurate checkpoint level to the documentation. It's important that your assessments be accurate to enable you to scaffold your students' learning and ensure the reliability of your data reports. IRR certification must be updated every 3 years. When completing your certification, you will choose the preschool, including dual language learners and children with disabilities test. The IRR certification is only for the 6 main domains. Before you begin a section, review the objectives and dimensions for that domain and look over the progressions. Then, after completing each section, submit your answers to receive your score. You must get at least 80% to pass. Click View Details to see the number of correct answers you have for each objective. If you did not pass, you can just retake that section. Here are some tips to help you when you are deciding on checkpoint levels during the testing. Remember, CIA. Ask yourself, based on the documentation that you are reading, does it show that that child acquired a skill and performs it consistently, independently, and that they are doing all aspects of the indicator? When you read the indicator, pay attention to the wording. If you see "and" or a semicolon, which is like an "and," the child must demonstrate both what is before and after "and" in the indicator in order to be leveled at that point. If a skill is emerging, but the child is not doing it consistently, independently, or demonstrating all aspects of the indicator, choose an in-between level. If you need additional resources and help understanding checkpoints and the Inter-Rater Reliability Certification, please use the links shown on the screen.